Today we're going to go out and do a capture, just normal without any RTK. It won't be as accurate. I want to say it'll be roughly about within a foot this way compared to within like 3 centimeters when you are using RTK. But first things first, before we head out, we are charging up some batteries. We're going to do a quick check on our drone that everything's in order. When our equipment is looking good, we're also going to hop online and just do a little Google Maps view of where we're looking at. I'm also going to gather that information on what the coordinates of the site are and put it into my board where I track the captures that I'm completing and their status. Make sure that our propellers are looking like they're in good shape. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to Google Maps and we're going to check out where we'll be flying today. So there's a big build happening right around here. I mean, this house is ginormous. It's going to be beautiful. Maybe too beautiful, some might say. So we got pretty heavy traffic here along the highway. We don't want to be flying around that. And then this is a pretty busy street as well, 31st. I can't really be on 31st corner as it's too busy. This is a bit too residential, you know, these people's properties, and I'd be across the street. It'd probably be better to be on the best side. So in my head, I'm probably going to set up here along this Hunt Club lane and, you know, hope that I don't bother any neighbors, but I'm probably looking at around here or here to be set up, and I'll have a clear view of the drone and be yeah, very good signal, I imagine, from there as well. It should be good. So I have a site log that I'm doing where it just lists the name of the site, the coordinates, and then other information on the status, the airspace. I'll do a quick check on the airspace before we head out there. I'm feeling pretty confident about it already, but still good to check. And then just the capture date, weather conditions, things like that to look back on, keep me organized. Airspace. Okay, so we are in autopilot where we're going to check restricted airspace and it's safe to fly. As you can see, there are some nearby. We have Midway and O'Hare where you would have to ask for clearance. On the outside 400 feet, as you get closer and closer, there's a zero grid. I have been here for others who are doing business and flying and they're able to get clearance, but it looks like we're luckily in good shape that we're going to be on 31st here. Here's our site. We are well away, and then zooming out, it's just nice to know where is our closest. So we should check when we're on site too, but this is at least good to know that we don't need to have approvals. If this was an actual job, as soon as you get the address, you should be looking up, do I need airspace clearance? Because having a week or 2 weeks, the sooner you can know, the better. But for today, best case scenario. It's clear airspace. Okay, and with that, we are pretty much ready to go. I'm going to grab those batteries off, throw them in the case. We're not using RTK today, so quite a bit less equipment. Really nice to just be able to go with the single Pelican case. In fact, it might lead to a consideration later when you choose your RTK. Do you want to have the MLIT equipment where you set up with the base station? The other option might be using more of the network-based, and those have cost differences as well. I've been very focused on non-subscription, and maybe I should break away from that, but it kind of seems nice to know what you've paid and work it off versus the never-ending subscription. That's how I feel on Netflix and everything. So maybe it's a personal problem, but anyway, let's pack up and let's head out. Maybe overkill, but I have these boots that it's nice doing drone work, and especially when I was doing some of the agricultural work, you find yourself walking in some ditches and fields, and probably your biggest danger out there might be wildlife or getting bitten by something, stung by something. So a little peace of mind comfort. All right, I think it's time to head out. So my hope is to not only use this as practice, but send some materials from the process, as though if this company had hired me, send them the work of what I would send them and say, hey, here you go. I thought this was cool. I hope this could be of use, and maybe in the future we could partner together, or even as you progress in this build. So hoping there's some potential. So we're winning a couple ways today. We're practicing, and hopefully we are approaching clients. Okay, so we're coming up, and here it is. It is hard to miss, and I'm focusing on the road, but definitely catches your attention driving by. Well, there's a part of me that wants to edit out mistakes, but it's probably better that I share them. I don't have internet, and you probably don't have to have internet, but I want to be able to make my route and have it pretty accurate off of the map there to edge within side of the roads. So anyway, my mistake. I thought I was ready. I didn't think through that process of having the internet ready. Okay, we're here and we are connected to internet on the controller now. We didn't do a route ahead of time. Probably would have been a nice practice to start doing, is creating a route, but it is nice to be here and see, what are my highest obstacles? Are there trees in the area? Are there buildings in the area? And it looks like the house is going to be pretty close to the tallest thing. Across the street, these trees are a little bit tall. So we're going to do this plus create route. We're going to use the area route that supports 2D and 3D data collection. So now we're going to draw our route. Again, we don't want to get into the highway. We don't want to get into the neighbors. So here's how we're going to do this. Doesn't like me clicking that area where we are. Adjust that one, pull it in. Now we're going to do the check. We're using the M3E and just the M3 camera. We're going to do an oblique collection. So ortho is it flies one route over top. Great for making an ortho, which is basically like a straight down just kind of map if you're just putting out that map. The oblique is going to do two route. This does a better job at capturing the faces, kind of that, the sides, and it will be able to put together a 3D model a bit better, rather than if you were just doing the top down, that would be enough to get that view. So oblique ground sample distance, we want that to be below 1 centimeter per pixel, and that's going to give us really good quality. And let's get this to 0.75. 79 feet tall. Should be plenty tall for the drone flight path to clear the trees, to clear the house, without even getting close. The drone has sensors on it that will avoid obstacles. Not something I want to mess with though, so I always try and make sure my flight route is clear and above it. The less risk, the better. And then, all right, so now we have our route altitude and our oblique ground sample distance. Safe takeoff altitude, I'm going to put that up to 120. That said, you don't need to go up to 400 feet to fly home. Like safe takeoff, 120 is plenty. We have the speed. I'm not going to mess with that. The slower you go, the better quality you're going to get. The faster, the quicker it's going to get done, but the less quality. Again, I already have my ground sample distance measurement where I want it at that 0.75 centimeters per pixel. It's pretty dang good. And the idea there is, I think below 1 is good, but in that 0.7, that's where I want to be. And that's calling for a 16-minute flight. I'm going to guess it's going to take more than that, but we'll see. And here's the one. When you're doing an oblique, it's going to do this route, and then secondly this route, whereas with just an ortho flight, it would just do one of these. And on the end of one of them, I believe it like flies back in an angle to, kind of capture the sides, but with less of an emphasis. Upon completion, return to home. I'm going to pause it and fly it home myself, but still a good setting just to have set up. So that is creating the route. And then if we were going to come back out here and fly this again to show updates over time, we have that route saved, so we would just be able to plug it in and get that same quality, same results. So we are going to call this Hunter Lane. Save. And so that is all you need to do to set up a flight route. It's fairly easy, fairly intuitive. I'm sure if you go in there and you haven't looked at this before, you know, you're gonna wonder again, hey, what is ortho, what is oblique? So those are some things to learn, and then you'll learn more about ground simple distance as you go, and kind of that quality. Again, some general pointers. Get it below that 1 centimeter per pixel, you're in pretty good shape. 0.7, even better. Overlap is a good measurement on what you might want to be looking for, and here I have a 70 and an 80, because the higher it is, the better. The more overlap you have. So what does this mean? When it's taking pictures and it's aligning those pictures together, how much percentage do they cross? And so if I'm going for just 10%, I only need a little bit of those to cover each other. But if I'm going for 80%, that's quite a considerable more. So you're going to have tighter routes, and with that, you're going to have better quality. I had to go into advanced settings to find this. I'm kind of surprised, but it makes you think. If you go back and your priority is that GSD, this should follow. Okay, so we are good. Save. And now we're going to fire up the drone and let's fly this baby. We are going to do a quick inspection of the drone as we take it out. I was set up earlier and I had to go. I had forgotten my phone, and I needed a little bit of internet. So now I'm really set up with internet, with the Starlink setup, and it's very nice because it makes me have really good confidence in my connection and my flight route being drawn out. So there you have that, and this is looking good as well. So I'm gonna go set it up on the back to take off. Okay, so when I set up, I make sure that my takeoff area is going to be clear of trees, and I'm not going to run into any issues there. And I'm also checking the wind speed, which today hasn't been that windy, so I know I'm okay there. But in a really windy day, something else to be aware of. So let's go back to recording screens. This has some quick pre-flights on your return to home and max altitude. I have it set to under 400. What it does if it loses connection, obstacle avoidance, how it would use those cameras. But that is about it. This is going to go to the mapping that we have set up. So this is going to pull that information in. Yeah, estimated duration 28 minutes. So that route must have been calling out for one of the paths on the oblique out of the two. Click on this, and we are taking off. One of the things I like about this truck is the sunroof, for being able to see the sky even more so from inside a vehicle. All right, so now we are flying the route. We're 24% in. Made a quick adjustment. The area that we're mapping, it was broader than it needed to be. It was capturing the house neighboring. So this was apparently an empty parcel of land, and now this is all being built on it. So I lowered the area, adjusted our route. Yeah, once the flight is built though, it's pretty straightforward. We are just going here, we're monitoring the drone in the air, we're watching on the camera, how we're looking there. I like that you have not only the actual camera view where it's taking its photos from, you can see it changing because it's doing the smart oblique where it's gonna take a picture, change its pitch, and take a picture from that way. So kind of like knocking out more photos in one flight path rather than just taking them all at one direction. It's picture, 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 picture. And then we have this view, which I believe is what it uses for its obstacle avoidance. It's kind of neat to be able to see, hey, I'm flying forward, what is going to be in my path? And you can even look to your side if you know you kind of want a better view of things that you're going to eventually get to, or maybe you see something off to the side and you want a better sight line of that. So really nice features here on the Mavic 3 Enterprise. I can only imagine on the newer models what it has as well. We're 40% through the route. It's estimating 7 minutes left, and I'm guessing that's just on this first oblique path. And it's taken 389 pictures of the 774. But as for being outside, this is about it. You run this mission, you finish it, you land it, and you load back up. In a scenario where we have to change batteries, we probably will have to change batteries at least once. It's easy. You come in, you land, you turn the drone off, you switch out the battery, you power it back up, and then it will reconnect with the controller and you can resume your flight from breakpoint. But it's a fairly fast reboot, and by the time you sit yourself back where you're hanging out, it's normally ready to go. One more thing I wanted to show, so I finished up the flight route, and we're gonna do some timed photos at 2 seconds. And the idea here is that when we're flying up high, sometimes it doesn't capture all of the faces. So if I do a spiral or two at these different heights, I'm going to be able to capture what's underneath these overhangs a bit more for it to fill those in when we do the actual 3D model. So that's the idea. They need to have overlaps in the photos, so as long as I'm capturing a couple photos per second, we should be okay here. And we're doing okay with battery. It says 6 minutes left. It's not going to let me go all the way down to the 6 minute mark, but it should be enough. And then in the bottom middle of the screen, you can see it's kind of like a little radar. So I'm going to take a second to stop taking pictures and just check how far back can I go here without running into a tree, know my surroundings, and finish this off. And this should give us a lot more detail on some of these around the house features. You can see the drone battery's at 17%. I know a guy. Once you get to 12 or 13, you better be landing. Do not push that below that. All right, well, that is the day on capturing, so fairly straightforward. I wish I could have flown another 10 feet lower, but safety first. I don't want to hit any of those trees and whatnot. And I'm curious, maybe other people do count on that obstacle avoidance, and I should open myself up to it more, but yeah, pretty quick time on site. Having RTK probably would have set me up, I don't know, double's probably dramatic, but set up the receivers properly and make sure that they're level and you're taking measurement of how high off of the ground you are there, and checking that you're connected. So if you can get into a smooth pattern of that, I'm sure it goes much faster. Definitely a quicker process to not use RTK. Therefore, something you can charge less for is not using RTK and involving those systems and checks, or the equipment entailed to use RTK. So there you have it. I still have this RTK receiver on top of the drone. I could probably take that off and save a little weight, extend my flight times by a little bit, but I don't think it was that big of a factor, and I'd rather just kind of leave it on rather than adding it, removing it. I've just put the drone away without taking out my SD card, which is pretty much the one reason I opened this up. All right, so all that magical data on this little guy. Speaking of SD cards, here are some settings that you should use for your SD card. All right. That is, yeah, 12.5 gigs. So, you know, fairly large, but all things considered, you don't need a massive terabyte card to capture that. If you wanted to do multiple projects at a time on one card, probably would be nice to have, but I personally think it's good practice to clear after each project. So I believe each photo, it's going to have the coordinates tied in there if you were using RTK and whatnot. But yeah, so it's just going to be a ton of these photos that it's going to patch together and find the overlap to build the model. We don't need to load each one though. What we do need is to store it. We're going to call this Hunter Lane 9625. Bring all these bad boys over. So a little bit of time to process that, to bring it over, not so bad. And now let's go through the 3ds Zephyr flow. Zephyr is open. We are going to start a new project. There's a couple options here. You could just stop at one stage, or you can go all the way through. You know, the pros of going all the way through is ideally the processing will just be a little bit less interactive, and you can spit out a final product. That said, if you do it in stages, you can kind of trim down what it's going to do for the next one, so you could actually even speed up how fast it's going to happen, but you have to interact with it in between there, and you know, you could kind of dial in along the way. So we're just going to go all the way through though and go for a texture. We're not going to set up masking or anything like that, but maybe something we can look at in the future. So in this, it knows what its goal is. Now we're going to add the photos, so it's going to pull in this, all the subdirectories, all the folders within that, the multiple flights, the one where I did just the 2-second shots, it's going to be in its own folder, so it's going to pull in all those photos. And now you can see it's recognizing that this was the calibration for the photos is on the Mavic 3 Enterprise. It's found that. And then now it's going to go through a couple stages and ask you basically, what is the type and how much of a preset do you want to just do a quick scan of it, or deep, really capture it all? I'm going to do general. You could do a vertical structure, you could do the aerial images, but we're just going to do general for both of these. And the reason why, so this is the top down. If I was just doing the ortho, I feel like this would be the way to go, but because it's an oblique and it's capturing some at the angle, capturing that face structure, I don't want that to get lost. I'm going to do general. I feel like to me it's I've seen it work and it works quite well. This is going to change your speed and quality. We're just going default. But it's kind of neat to see 3ds Zephyr's other options on what you can do. Maybe you're not using a drone, maybe you're doing sculptures at home or something, you know, for 3D modeling to throw in video games. Pretty cool features with 3ds Zephyr. What are these stages? What do they mean? And we can run through that. This is going to take quite a long time. I'm going to start a stopwatch. It's 3:06 p.m. here. And it's certainly going to take longer than 12 minutes to process all this. It's going to take these photos now and go through each of them, and I shouldn't pretend to know exactly how this all works or what it's doing, but it's identifying those photos, it's finding the overlap between all of them, and it's yeah, basically doing some calculations to then find where are these points of reference. And that's where our starting stage is going to be, is the sparse point cloud, and it's going to dial out. So we'll continue from there. 42 minutes in, this is where we're at. Yeah, it's still working. So it looks like it's working off of 1,030 photos. Interesting that that one didn't make it out of the 1,030, 1,031. And I don't know how to break down this, but I mean, my guess is if it's working on the sparse point cloud, it's still figuring out where they're at, where they're pointed, kind of putting it all on a little map, if you will. All right, I'm guilty. I snuck out to play golf, so did the stopwatch stop? It's been 4.5 hours, but it finished. Let me pull up the screen. Okay, so this kind of shows that 1,030 photos out of the 1,031 have been oriented, which here is the result of our dense point cloud, our mesh, and our textured mesh. This is going to show each of the photos through the 1,030. So finish. So we'll start with the sparse point cloud. So this is its earlier, finds the points and overlaps them. It makes a little point in each one. Then we go to the dense point cloud. Sparse point cloud versus the dense point cloud. I honestly don't know. But now we're looking a lot more complete. It's pretty clean. I'm just curious about the underhang. Looks like it got a good amount of detail, and I'm sure that's from, you can see if you hit this button, where the different camera shots are coming from. So here's when we did that manual spiral. Okay, let's keep going to the mesh. There you have it. And finally, the textured mesh. I believe the mesh creates kind of triangles out of the point clouds and makes this, whereas the textured mesh uses the photos and the triangles, and I think it does just a little bit more, and I will double check that for this video. But so this is our final product here. It does show kind of the result of, you know, how far along they are with that chimney stack, I guess, or is it an actual chimney? Maybe not. But yeah, like I was saying, you can kind of see the status of where things are at. Another good thing, use case of this, is being able to measure materials that you have, kind of what's been used. Here you can tell these are, I think, 2 different materials. They sure look like different colors anyway. So you could do like a volume measurement of that. Just have a little bit planning. And let's look at one more thing up in here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's not perfect for sure, but there's definitely ability to see up in there. Could have spent a bit more time kind of, you know, going in here and catching these inside looks just to build that out on these poles. Overall, from a usability case, pretty good. So I'm just going to do this. 8 brings you back over top. This is not exactly what the ortho map would spit out, but I think it's pretty close to what it would spit out. And that this is something that, you know, if someone had this printed and are working on it, they'd be able to do some planning. I'm actually surprised with how much this side yard was captured in the house. It still caught all of that, so pretty impressive. I think that's going to be it as far as a dive into how you go about on this process. There's definitely more steps here. You can do things where you use some of these tools and the mesh filters to smooth things out, fill some of the gaps in. Definitely would do some selection, and you can basically crop out areas. You can also do that with the bounding box because it is such a useful feature. Like being able to cut this down to a reasonable size definitely helps in what you're able to do with it. So that was it. Just to run back through what we did, we took the Mavic 3 Enterprise, we got ready, we head out, we captured this site, and we processed it in 3DF Zephyr. I did want to figure out the time. Roughly 3.5 hours to process this. This was mapping without RTK. We're definitely going to go into mapping with RTK. It's a little bit more complex, so we can spend some time talking about GSD as well. All right, thank you.